Let's see if there's some, sorry first.
Oh,
Steve on, I was. We'll see.
Yeah.
All right, as the person that got suckered into being chair of the URA budget last year, I am opening this meeting. This is the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency Budget Committee meeting for fiscal year 26-27. And welcome. So the first order of business is to elect the committee chairman and vice chair probably of the budget process for this meeting.
I nominate Jen Miller.
Second.
Any other, we have a second, but while we're in discussion, any other slates? All right, nomination, and did we have a vice chair in there? Well, let's just move on that one. There's a nomination for Zan Miller to be chair this year, by Blackburn, and a second by Doug. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Any nays?
Thanks for volunteering.
All right, a vice chair in case,
Well,
no,
chair-
we don't need a vice chair.
No,
Yeah.
just one meeting.
Yeah.
Cool. The next thing is approval of minutes from May 21st, 2025. Okay. Has anyone looked at the packet and seen the minutes? Oh, Steve, go ahead. Oh, was that a vote, Steve, or do you want to jump in?
That was a vote for the earlier one. Sorry, I didn't know. I raised my hand and it stayed up.
Got it. Good use of tech there.
I seem to be on here twice.
All right, so we're looking for either discussion or a motion to approve the minutes for May 21st, 2025.
I motion to approve the minutes for May 21st, 2025.
All right, Gene had a motion, Kate had a second. Any discussion or thoughts on that? All in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Budget presentation. So Will, this is you.
Yeah. Thank you. PowerPoint going. So presentation and going in through all the districts, we're gonna kind of do that in one piece today. We're a lot smaller than the city, so we're it's all one thing. So when I get to districts, I'll pause. We can go if you have any questions about line items. We can take the deliberation right there as we move through. But I'm going to start out with just some overview of the process. We'll get into some remarks just about the overall revenue forecast, maximum indebtedness, and then, like I said, when we get to the districts, we can pause at each one of the districts, separate opening remarks about each district, its planning for next year. But we can stop and have as much discussion about each district at that point if you want to. I have a little summary of some of the key decisions that I think are kind of bubbling up to the top this year. We'll have our public hearing, then any additional deliberations, revisions, or any changes that you want to see in the budget. And then finally, when everyone's at a place where you feel that they can approve the budget, we hope to have a motion to authorize budget for FY27 and also authorize continued division tax to support states north. So first, just a bit about the budget process, mostly for agency like advisory committee members who haven't been meeting on the budget for the last 3 weeks. So what you have in front of you for discussion tonight is my proposed budget, and it's a recommendation to you of what we should, how we should allocate funds for next fiscal year. When we get done with our work tonight, we're going to have an approved budget. So you as the budget committee, you're all co-equal members of the budget committee, and we make motions and approve motions by majority vote. And you can change the budget in any way that you wish. And after tonight, it will be the approved budget. That approved budget then goes to the agency board only in June, and they can only change what you do tonight by 10%, or else we have to renotice, hold more hearings, and have a more process. So that's where we are in the process today and what's necessary to create the legal document to continue operating and spending public funds starting July 1st. So getting into the revenue forecast, we have put to rest the taxing activity of our larger districts, and now we're moving forward with just the Heights and West Side District. The Columbia Cascade stopped collecting in FY22, and last fiscal year we're at right now, FY26. The last year that the waterfront district was able to collect. So we're moving forward with just 2 districts, and there's the projection, and this is based on basically no growth scenario, what 3% growth in our tax base under measures 5 and 50 would produce. So obviously that's a floor. We hope to do better than that. I catalyze the new development. Looking at that same picture, but in the context of what taxable assessed value is in urban renewal versus the rest of the city of Hood River. I think this is just interesting to show that back in 2015, let's see, we had, where's my note? I think it was 15% of the taxable value of the city was being used for renewal. And that moved up to about 15%. Or okay, let's see. Yeah, 13% in FY 2015 moved up to 18% fiscal year 2020, just about the max when the Columbia Cascade district was retired. And going into fiscal year 27, only 4.3% of the city's taxable assessed value will be dedicated for urban renewal tax increment. And if we don't catalyze new growth by FY 2030, we'll still only be at about 5.6% of the city's taxable value being redirected for urban renewal activities. So if we're very successful in creating a whole bunch of new development, it'll be higher, but that'll be brand new development that wouldn't have occurred otherwise. And so you would think, well, we have so little revenue, this is our smallest year, should this be at least enacted here? But it's actually the exact opposite with our renewal, because we're supposed to live on debt, not on current earnings. Our goal is to borrow, catalyze new development, pays back borrowing when everything's working correctly. So what's much more important than the amount of revenue we're making this year is how much borrowing authority still remains. So this is the original authorized maximum indebtedness by district when each one of the districts was created. And what we estimate we have left going in to the next budget year. So we expect to have about 780,000 is all that's left over in Columbia Cascade. Waterfront, Kudos to Public Works, really doing a good job here, bringing the stormwater project in the waterfront to a tight close. So we still have $1.3 million of fund balance in the waterfront. Heights, 6.2 million, and then almost all of the West Side districts, $146.3 million ready to access. We have targets that long for them. So I'll stop there and start going into the district. But any just general questions on maximum indebtedness, rural revenue?
How much of that, just looking at West Side, for example, how much of the 146 can we borrow against?
Today,
And then now, yeah.
depends how we want, what we could get, what a lender would be willing to set up as far as an amortization schedule. You know, if we could start low and have the payments be higher in out years, I think we could comfortably borrow $10 million. But if we had to just go on, I think I'd have to look at it when we get to the West Side district, but probably support about $100,000 in debt service this year. So if we had to just rely on $100,000 of debt service, we can't borrow that much, but fact is it's going up so quickly. That's really the way to structure the amortization really makes all the difference in what we can access.
I think I just wanna make sure I'm understanding this right, so like the chart with the percentage of the taxes that we. That one. So basically, since 2015. The other districts like library and parks and stuff, they're getting more money. We're not like withholding that as much as we have been in the past, but
Correct, yeah, we released about $90 million of taxable assessed value for the waterfront district. So, I think, in the city budget, there was about a 7% bump in the city's, property taxes, so that about round numbers. Great, anything else before I get into the Columbia Cascade? So, the district that started it all, 1987, created the urban renewal agency was created to create this district. Identified failing infrastructure, so water pipes from the turn of the century, waste sewer pipes that were allowing in groundwater, stormwater, conveyance in some areas was just open ditches, and even some roadways in our town still gravel when the Columbia Catholic District was created. The intention when it was created was to start north and work up. Oh, sorry about that. I'm just gonna continue going. So the intention in when the district was created was to start north and work the way south, doing new roads, water, sewer, and beautification, like street trees. We would typically create a local improvement district to pair with urban renewal funds, so that there was some sharing with property owners, and just top to bottom completely revitalized downtown and made it in the form it is today. Utilities were undergrounded and street trees were added. And in addition to those kind of more meat and potatoes improvements, there was also beautification and public amenities added. So the overlook, Stratton Gardens, as well as the pedestrian path that links downtown to the waterfront, things like that. And at the end of the process, downtown, which was $33.7 million in taxable value, adjusted for inflation, so much less than that back then in 1987, grew to 136 million in taxable value when the district stopped collecting taxes, division of tax in 2022. So since it is closed, we've held a balance. I think it was over $2 million when the district closed. All of that has been working on stormwater project that is wrapping up this month. And we've now projected what we have to carry forward into next fiscal year, and that's all we're going to have left to spend is just the earnings, basically the cash in the checking account. And in fact, all interest earnings on that checking account has to be sent back to the county every year. We don't even get to grow any interest on it. So truly just the single dollar amount that we spend. So now that what we have left, have a list of possible investments that expect to take forward through a public process to whittle down and decide. These are things that have been talked about for many years, and I just bring them up to kind of talk about the four instances. So one would be the downtown parking garage feasibility study. Have here, this is an example urban renewal project from Missoula, Montana that has 334 parking spaces, so about twice what our Columbia lot has, which has 130 spaces. And this sits on a footprint half the size of our Columbia lot. Do a grant program for sidewalk repair. There's a lot of uneven sidewalks and tripping hazards in our downtown. And that could, the city of Dallas has a 50-50 match with their downtown business owners to people want to fix the sidewalk after the business. It is ultimately the responsibility and the liability of business owners to take care of their own sidewalks, but this would be an incentive to take care of something rather than letting it sit.
Can we just move the video down for the estimate?
Oh, yes, or thanks, Jim.
Oh, sorry.
Yep, so 780,000.
Thank you.
And remaining recommendation from our 2019 parking studies improved parking signage and wayfinding in the downtown. We have invested in public art in our State Street restroom, but there's a lot of other public art pieces in downtown that are just temporary, and we could make those permanent. Street trees, there's always a few street trees that are dead and need replacing. And there's, you know, the road fund just really doesn't have the money for that. And so the intention is to take these ideas, which have been around for a long time, do a public process, collect additional ideas, maybe a survey, something like that, and then bring it back to the Urban Renewal Agency Board. The intention, you know, a plan for the final payout in the next fiscal year. So the budget in front of you essentially puts everything in contingency pending that deliberative process.
Well, so the idea is that we would put out some sort of survey, these would be the options. Folks would have an opportunity to weigh in, and then next year we would be deciding, here's how we're gonna spend the 780,000.
So I intend to do all this next summer.
Okay,
Because we'll know, the stormwater project will be done this month. Be a little bit of time to close it out, do all the closeout accounting, ensure the exact dollar amount that we have to spend, and then initiate this public process.
and then I have a question about the garage, the parking garage feasibility study. Are there pieces that could be pulled out of the 2019 parking study that would maybe support that, so you don't have to go out for such a large feasibility study just for the parking garage?
Demand data we can get from that for sure, but this would be focused on financial feasibility. So putting together a business plan for it. Okay, ready if I move into the waterfront district? Okay, so really the poster child for how urban renewal can work in Oregon. Prior to 2006, nothing had been developed in the waterfront for years. There's a lot of empty lots. The smell on certain days made it unbearable to be down there from the wastewater treatment plant. And I heard kind of it was so empty that bike races would happen in the loop around down there. Urban renewal came in, capped settling ponds, removed the odor problems, built new roads. That energy was paired up with community energy to build the waterfront park. And after a short period of time, $11.8 million in taxable value grew to $92.6 million. That is a 14% annual growth rate as compared to the 3% that would have just occurred under measures 5 and 15. So the waterfront, the stormwater project is going to be done, and we estimate about $1.3 million in the remaining funds. Okay, yeah, here's the water line. Used to go underneath all of these businesses. It has been moved to the roadway, the right of way, where infrastructure should be. And the last piece is creating this enhanced wetland between downtown and the waterfront. And so the waterfront's paying half because water is being diverted from the waterfront, and downtown is paying half for this last piece. And when the waterfront closes, so we have already, let go of all the taxable value, and so that's ongoing structural revenue. In 2020, went right after the stormwater project, stormwater collapse. The agency passed resolution 2020-04, which dedicated all remaining waterfront urban renewal funds to the stormwater line. Not explicit, but it's somewhat implicit in that statement that after the stormwater project is done, there's nothing else to spend waterfront dollars on. So under that logic, this $1.3 million would just be sent back to the county to be redistributed to all the overlapping taxing districts. This is a rough estimate of what would be the one-time financial impact for all the taxing districts if we did just send the balance of funds back. So I say this is kind of my status quo expectation that is built into the proposed budget. But I just wanted to maybe have a discussion too around if we did just make folks aware of if we did want to retain that funds and invest it in the waterfront. Some other ideas, additional investments would be turning the restrooms into year-round restrooms, which requires heating units and some other upgrades to make sure that the lines don't freeze. Columbia Area Transit is in engineering and design for a transit hub. They have a grant for that money. There's always funds to be put into lot 1 to make that eventually develop. Like downtown, we can make some of the transient big art permanent. And then lastly, the City of Hood River's capital plan includes $380,000 of needed replacements and maintenance of the waterfront park and out years. So those are kind of on the table, and I kind of lob this out for when we get to deliberations of what people think we should do. Any questions on that?
That would require a resolution to undo the same resolution,
I
correct?
think that would be the cleanest way to do it. It doesn't. Yeah, we should do an updated resolution if we choose to do that.
And is that a recommendation that would then go to the board?
It would be the board passing a resolution.
Will, does the proposed budget include, make sure that we're closing off the storm line? That are done.
Yeah. That should be done
And
this
then-
fiscal year.
B, does it assume either of those two possibilities, one agency decides to do final projects or to return it to the other taxing districts?
It's all budgeted in contingency right now. But I would say without
That's
direction,
clean, yeah,
I
I
would
like
send
it.
it back.
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. So now the Heights District, on the cusp of turning dirt after planting since 2018 for the Heights Streetscape Plan. So you know, we're going in with $6.2 million, so still a good amount of funds to make some significant progress. Looking at what we got done this fiscal year, so we adopted a Heights proportionate share district, so now any development that puts trips into the Heights district will be paying their proportionate share towards the intersection improvements, capacity enhancing intersection improvements. I believe we already got about $15,000 from one business that was going into the Heights, so we can use that, and that'll be a future revenue source. We've negotiated a jurisdictional transfer of the Heights section of OR 281, so 13th and 12th, and we expect a little over $4 million in payment. 2.3 million, just no strings attached, compensation for taking over maintenance of the roadway on ongoing basis, and $1.7 million for us upgrading ADA curb ramps that ODOT is required to upgrade, and these are the ones that we would get to anyway in the first 3 projects of the Heights Streetscape Plan. And we completed the 30% designs for the first 2 projects of the Heights Streetscape Plan, which are shared use path on Taylor and interim bike connection between Pine and Taylor, and in enhanced crosswalks in 4 locations. So we're gonna add for the next fiscal year, we're gonna take those drawings to full construction documents and hopefully go out to be awarding a bid contract at this time next year for construction in the summer. And add on to it the ADA curb ramps along all of 13th, and then also the 3rd Heights Streetscape project, which is redoing the sidewalk on the east side of 13th. And this is just a picture of how that Taylor Avenue connection is going to connect a whole network of suggested safe routes to school routes. And are on the east side and west side of the Heights district right now. So that's essentially all we're doing in the Heights District next fiscal year is, there's about a little over $1 million for all this design work.
And that's $1 million of urban renewal dollars or?
Correct.
Is that what-
Yes, yeah. There'll be more than enough expenses when we get to construction to draw down all the
State money.
all the state money. State money is being held in a reserve in the city's budget. Then moving on to the big one, the West Side District. $146.2 million in remaining maximum indebtedness, about 99.6%. So as a just grounding in what the West Side District is supposed to do, it had a really simple purpose. It was to breathe life into our transportation system plan, our adopted affordable housing strategy, and the multi-jurisdictional parks master plan that the city of Hood River signed on to. So all of this was excellent planning work in its own right, but it wasn't funded. And West Side District is a way to kind of make these plans real. Completed activities in the last fiscal year as we finalized our performance and equity metrics to set from the outset what communicate what we're trying to achieve and how we're going to measure our progress over on the West Side. Similar to the Heights Proportionate Share District, we supported the creation of a Mount Adams Proportionate Share District, so that creates a revenue source for that important project. And also launched, well, I guess prior fiscal year we launched, this year we updated and simplified and relaunched our modest housing construction incentive, simplifying it to a flat $12.5 thousand per dwelling unit and basing it solely on size, where it had been tied to using the city's middle housing standards in the past. So for next fiscal year, we're going to continue to operate the housing incentive. We're always looking for opportunities to pair and assist development, but where our basically liquid resources are going are continuing to move forward the Mount Adams roundabout. So really see that as the catalyst, the most important single catalyst to the development potential, overall development potential of the West Side. This intersection serves about 240 acres of undeveloped and developable land, the last significant reserve of developable property within our urban growth boundary, which, as many of you know, is pretty set in stone, given that we're hemmed in by state border, national scenic area, and high value farmland. So getting it right with this last reserve of land is our kind of last best shot. So we've created 10% engineered designs that supported the proportionate share districts, and we're on third round of comments with our ODOT intersection control evaluation. Essentially, we cannot move. Councilor Cavalier.
How much was this? Can you just remind me how much this roundabout was going to cost us? What we think that the cost would be, total cost?
Total cost with design and for the full build out. So those are two important caveats. I believe we're $9.2 million.
And we with our current, we currently could probably borrow 10 million.
I think if ODOT gave us the go ahead today, and I could find a bank who would amortize us with some of our payments accelerating in out years,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we could borrow $10 million.
And that would actually unlock the ability for more housing to be built out in that West Side area, right? Which would accelerate our ability to borrow more to do other things, right?
That's the flywheel
Yeah.
of tax increment financing.
And yep, got it. Thank you.
Remind me, does that include real estate acquisition in that?
I do not have any money budgeted for real estate acquisition.
For whatever you want to
Oh,
call it.
yes, I believe that does include
Okay.
right away. Sorry, I was.
Right away, that was-
Just
yeah.
for housing or something.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
Poor phrasing, my fair.
But first we need to get, so Heights, we did jurisdictional transfer. We do not, have, this is not our roadway, this is the state's roadway, so we have a long process just to get through approvals. before we can really even start spending the big dollars. So you don't have to read all that, just like to show you there is a lot of people who need to look at this and comment on it and approve it over the next year. And so we have consulting dollars to move through that process.
I feel like you've mentioned this before, but I can't remember, just generally like the timeline for all of that, what are we looking at?
Yeah, well, we're on ODOT time, so don't hold me. But the goal would be to get through most of this in the next year and then move directly into design. And if we were able to do that and it worked out well, we conceivably could be in construction in 2030. Yeah, so right now the target is 2030.
But getting through this is first, and so budgeting money towards that $10 million doesn't make sense in this next fiscal year, is that?
Correct, yeah, it's gonna be FY 28 when we're probably borrowing big dollars here.
Right.
One thing that where the proportionate share district really helps us is Dustin over there can deem adequate public facilities if people have paid their proportionate share towards this improvement. So essentially, it's all from a planning approval perspective, it's like we've already built the intersection. Now that can only go so far, right? Because now, like, say the west side truly does build out and cars are backing up all the way out in Frankton, that's not really something we can abide. But at least knowing that we have a funding mechanism, it's on its way. We are today able to essentially act as if the roundabout is in place from a political standpoint.
It seems that the question today is, do we have enough line items to fund the optimistic side if that happened? As opposed to needing to come back and do another budget hearing.
Yeah, so if we mid-year, something happened where we could accelerate, that would be grounds for a supplemental budget, because the loan funds would be new resources to budget to then offset the expenditures. So it is possible. But yeah.
So what, if you could wave the magic wand that you keep in your desk, and I know you have one, and accelerate this project so we don't have to wait till we're doing the 2026-27 budget. If we want to see this on the budget for next year, how do you make that happen?
I'm trying to figure that out. So one thing I'm doing is, I need to take this to the Historic Columbia Highway Advisory Committee. I can do that concurrently. I can start doing that now. So I'm on their agenda for their June meeting while the intersection control evaluation is going on concurrently. So I'm looking for everything that can be concurrent rather than sequential. But unfortunately, much of this ODOT will not go to the next step until there's an intersection control evaluation. Then we can go to doing an interchange access management plan amendment, and then we can go, unfortunately, a lot of it is sequential.
Okay.
I've reached out to the governor's office actually just yesterday to express the importance of this, and if they could at all help move things along. So I am trying to raise the alarms as many ways as I can, but I'd say this plus the heights plus anything else, when you are at when people are running for the state legislature and they're asking you questions, ask them, where are they on funding on this? If state legislators aren't hearing that these projects are important, then when it gets to budget time in Salem, and I go and say, hey, this is really important, and they've never heard of it before, they're not going to believe me.
Yeah.
So I'd say that's one thing.
Will, do we have like I feel like at some point you showed it to us, like a little talking point sheet, a little one pager about this?
Yeah, I definitely have it. I
Yeah.
can send it out.
Okay.
Great. Okay, and then lastly, kind of going back to the beginning of your budget book, the agency general fund, this accounts for overhead costs, essentially me, and as well as like audit. So that's funded by direct charges to the districts. It also can be supported by program revenues, which is a exciting kind of new growing opportunity now that we have a dedicated urban renewal administrator. I've been able to contract with the city to assist with things like a citywide moderate income revolving loan fund, supporting the managing the bond information outreach campaign, and then also working on the city council's priority for another housing project. And so all of that is the city paying for my time and for work that's happening in the general fund. And because we have that supplemental revenue, I was able to not increase the charges to the districts this year. So the charges to the districts to the URA general fund is flat from FY 26. Okay, so now that we've gotten, so before we get to public hearing and deliberations, these are at least what I pulled out as kind of the key decision points for discussion. One for Columbia Cascade, you know, we're gonna wait to see how the stormwater line project closes out. Once we get the final dollar amount, do a public process to that final project. So defining that through future public process, not today. That's one thing. And the waterfront, big question is return remaining resources to overlapping districts or engage in a separate process to decide how to put those funds to use in the waterfront. Heights, essentially, my direction in the proposed budget is continue moving forward on the High Street Safe Plan with the tunnel vision. And then on the west side, it's again tunnel vision on the Mount Adams roundabout. I'd say that is the overarching policy direction that you have and that is built into the document in front of you.
Will, for the first two, you've done that via contingency buckets that as soon as the policy decisions are made, whichever way they're made, it's we budget wise we're covered.
Yeah, moving around contingency. So with that, I will hand it back over to the chair.
Any other questions for Will before we close this and go into the public hearing? Or discussions or comments? So I think it's time for the public hearing then, right? Okay, this is the time scheduled for a public hearing regarding the proposed budget for fiscal year 26-27 for the Hood River Urban Renewal Agency. We'll now take public testimony. Jen, is there anyone registered to speak or provided testimony? Is there anyone from the audience that would like to speak to the URA budget committee? Seeing none, this arrow goes all the way to the bottom. The public hearing on the fiscal year 26-27 budget. Really? Okay, is there anyone in this at this table that wants to comment or discuss anything related in the budget?
We'll have
Hearing.
deliberations.
Huh?
We'll have deliberations as the next.
Because the next one is we're closed.
We'll close the hearing.
Okay, the hearing part is closed.
Of the public.
Okay. All right, seeing none there, the public hearing on the fiscal year 26-27 proposed budget was now closed. And that's the end of this sheet of paper. We did all that. Final deliberations, so this is the time for anything else from this table. That if everything from my perspective, you know, Will has budgetarily built in the pieces to do, you know, make sure that we're booking on the traffic circle and the heights is. This, we have more than a year's worth to do in the next year, and the other ones are contingency funds. Is there anything that anyone sees as missing or want to make edits to the budget?
I wanna make sure that I know when to take a bite at the apple. Returning funds to the affected districts versus wanting a piece of big art. When will those decisions be made?
I think this was just you don't really need to change anything into the budget to do that, but if the budget committee has a recommendation that they want to add as a budget note, I'd say this would be the appropriate place to do that.
As a communique to the agency board.
Yes. As I stated in the budget message, the intention, without anyone diverting me, is to get the money back.
And Paul, I'll note that this budget committee is made up of the advisory committee and the agency board, so. If we as a group today don't do anything, my understanding is we'll bring it to the advisory committee to. Get some air bubbled through it, and then it goes to you guys as the agency to make the decision.
Thank you.
Just on the topic of public art, I have a quick question of, I think it's really important. I love that we have it. How much does it cost us? Like, why are we not working, I mean, this is another separate policy thing, not a part of the budget of like, why are we not working with the community to have those kinds of things donated, but how much does that art cost us?
Yeah, so if you go to the Art of Communities webpage, they have the price for the ones that are not permanent. Most all of them have prices on them. So essentially they're kind of up there for us to enjoy until they're sold. So if you want to, they range, I mean, it's like, it's art, so it ranges.
So it's not art, like it's not even from our own community. It's just, there's like another organization that puts stuff here for us to enjoy. And then eventually it'll go away if somebody else buys it or if we buy it.
Yeah, well, Art of Community is a local nonprofit, so it's it was, all Hood River folks came together.
Oh,
As this be a way to create a way to have some public art, and some of it's permanent, so people have paid for it, like the little like the bear statue that's over by ground. I think Maui paid for that, and now that's there permanently. Where we have paid for something is the State Street restroom, the public art that's on the facade of that. I believe that was $25,000 that we granted to Art of Community, and then they administered the solicitation to procure that for us and did all of the design aesthetic kind of decisions for us. But yes, much of the art around town is not guaranteed to be there permanently.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
Doug first, then Gladys.
So another line item, not the big art one, but you mentioned the improvements to the waterfront district, $380,000. Theoretically, $300,000 would be returned to the city, etc. What's the best way to handle that? Do we want to if we want to get those improvements done? And the reason there are so many improvements is because there's a tremendous amount of people that use that park. We've got some, capital improvement plans to replace things that are being quite worn out down there already. Sand was just put down there and whatnot, but there's still $380,000 worth of improvements. Does it make sense to keep that in renewal to fund those improvements, or is it sufficient to, because it basically goes right back into the pot for the city. If we return to the city, it gets lost with all the other capital improvement projects. So the one thing that I would suggest maybe we think about is waterfront improvements, if we were to retain some of that money.
Yeah, your choice. $1.3 million. You can hold and direct $1.3 million while it's in the urban renewal agency, or on the city side, you would have $300,000 to direct where it goes.
And so we could direct where it goes when it comes to the city.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But okay, doesn't go into the general fund and.
It'll go into the general fund.
Yeah, but then it's in the general fund, probably we're following everything in terms of the budgeting for the general fund, would we be able to pass that back to the city and say, let's use that for waterfront, for example?
So right now in the budget, there's nothing that is assumed on waterfront, other than
ongoing structural.
Right, so that would be council action, right? So if the council was to, if the funds were to be sent to the city, council action could be directed towards specific use. And then that's what we do. I will add, just to make it clear, So the 1.3 million that is in the URA, waterfront URA currently. Includes funds from all the taxing districts that could be used by action of the URA's committee towards 1.3 million projects.
Right.
Right, in support of the waterfront, as opposed to just releasing the city's portion. Which you think $1,000, of course, can be directed to those.
I was just thinking 300 to 380 were pretty close.
Yeah.
That was the-
Yeah, what I think, what I've lobbied for as part of that conversation, as part of the projects that's mentioned is, so could the URA pick up, that CIP project,
Mhm.
and as part of the URA, and in association with other projects involved.
So that's possible.
That would be a decision on behalf of the urban renewal
Yeah.
committee. But certainly they could decide if they would like to pick up that CIP project as part of it as a urban project.
Gotcha. Thank you, that's clear.
I had a similar question, but as far as like timeline for us to discuss the waterfront park, I know that Adam, you're next and we'll talk about the entire CIP, but as we think about making restorations or renovations to the waterfront park, I imagine that we're gonna take care of all like the kiddo space, but then how do we also think of an opportunity of creating multi-generational features for the park? Like, I know I've sent emailed pictures of there's workout gear that we have similar to Odell. Like, how do we bring those kinds of features of that? So when are we having that part of the discussion?
I would suggest because we could, there's so many different opportunities to spend money in the waterfront district. I would recommend that today this committee focuses on the narrower question of, do you want to make any sort of policy statement now about whether or not to send it back or whether or not to retain it? And decide that we'll have a process to determine how to spend it in the next fiscal year.
I think we should retain it, me personally, and then as we think about these other, like West Side, for example, that we don't make decisions in that time, that we retain it and then come back and continue, we still have ideas of here's what we can do, but sometimes within a year, there are significant changes and that we don't want to be too rigid and say we're only going to use these dollars for these 5 things. How do we make sure that we're flexible in whatever we decide for our policy?
So the current budget has $1.3 million in contingency funds. So it is entirely up to the urban renewal agency of whether to make budget maneuvers to move that into anything up that would be allowed that you want to. So this is basically uncolored thing. So and Will's suggestion is, do we as a group want to opine, or do we just say, okay, we have this bucket, there's a process proposed where, and that we've done our job at the budget committee. And that makes a lot of sense to me, but here we are.
I mean, it makes sense, but at the same time, there's, Will said he's gonna do a survey and that's gonna go out to individuals in the community. There should also be an opportunity for us to.
Will said, here's a potential list of things, and one of the potential things we could do is a survey, so.
That's Columbia Cascade.
That was Columbia Cascade,
Oh, right.
because the $780,000 there, we have no existing policy direction to give it back.
Right.
It's only in the waterfront where the kind of null hypothesis is we give it back.
Right. So in both cases, it's a bucket of contingency money with the agency getting to decide what to do. Ideally, early in the fiscal year, so we can actually do it, but. Does that make sense?
And for now, again, this committee would be making a recommendation to the board.
No, this committee sets the budgetary framework that, in this case, it just says. There's this pool of contingency money that the agency can decide what to do with or not, and then next year we didn't spend that contingency bucket and we do this discussion again, but hopefully that's not true. Right.
Saying the budget committee is an advisory committee or makes a recommendation to the board, which makes the final decision.
That is what I'm saying.
Yeah, or you could all decide, someone can make a motion to move it out of contingency and move it into appropriations for redevelopment projects. You know, you wanna take that strong of a stance. Or you could just do the equivalent of a budget note with a message to the agency board as to what the budget committee. Thinks, or you can pass as is, which is just in contingency, as the chair was saying, and you know, we'll take this up later.
You'll bring it to the board later.
Yeah.
So we don't have to make a note.
Right.
Yeah, so say that we wanted to retain the money and probably, but not definitely use it on the waterfront upgrades versus like giving that money back to the city with a note that we want them to use it on the waterfront upgrades. What's effectively the difference between those things? Is it who's making the final decision about what gets upgraded, or?
Yeah. Well, you can advise anyone you want to advise, but you don't really have any control over the city, so we give it away to the city, it's the city's.
So even if we say, we want you to use it on this thing, it doesn't really.
Yeah.
And I just want to make sure you weren't inadvertently leaving out the additional point, which is. Give it back to the city and the library and the Parks and Rec, all those other taxing entities.
Right.
And, you know, if we're gonna keep it, you know, I think that why I would suggest we don't spend too much time spending on talking about what we could spend it on is because. There may even be aspects of this process where we wanna bring in the taxing districts and get their point of view on this, they might have some strong opinions, so there's. I think this is probably a special meeting that is staffed with good estimates and good analysis, and none of that is in front of you tonight, it's really this threshold question.
Amanda?
Is it all or nothing, like if we identify like a couple projects, because like I think bathrooms sound really important. Could we, whatever, like the park improvement and the bathroom, that equals this and give back the rest of it, or is it, we have to give back the 1.3 or we keep?
Great question, totally variable, you can keep some, give back some.
And just based on the last discussion, if we retained it, it would have to be spent in the waterfront district, right?
Yeah, and on qualified plan,
Right,
expenditures.
so like we couldn't like say. Bring, you know, oh, that we'll put that towards the roundabout, we couldn't do that. If we're talking about the city portion alone, maybe the city could do something outside the district if that 300,000 was returned, et cetera, but whatever, if we chose to retain it, it would be in the district.
That's exactly so. Anything else?
I had a question.
Yeah.
So we've heard about the increase to the city, to the budget, from the retirement of the waterfront district. That also means other districts are actually going to get a nice boost as well. So that makes me feel better, just opinion to keep it in, use it in the district. Do you have like an understanding of when we could potentially meet with these other districts to talk about, you know, do we all pool funds, and when would that potentially happen?
We could take that on this summer.
Would we invite them, or are we doing a road show?
I'd say just give me, if you wanna retain it and. Just do that, and then, you know, I can infer and bring you like a well thought out, well thought out plan. I don't think I'd give you a good one, just standing here off the cuff.
Of course, yeah.
All right. That was good. There are two motions in the packet. First one is to approve the budget. I would look for a motion.
So move.
No. Who's got it open? They can read it.
I move to approve the proposed fiscal year 2026-27 budget as proposed.
Second.
There we go. We have a first and a second to approve the fiscal 26-27 budget. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any no's? Motion passes. Second one is I love this one just because it's so arcane that we have to ask the state to please let us collect taxes. So there's a motion there for that.
I move that the Heights District Plan Area and West Side District Plan Area request the maximum amount of revenue that may be raised by dividing the taxes under section 1C, article 9 of the Oregon Constitution and ORS chapter 457 as applicable.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second for asking for our money. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Any no's? Motion passes. That is it. Meeting is adjourned.
Right, thank you.
Good job.
Good job, Mr. Van Helder.
Order. Thank you, Gavin. Everybody ready to call this meeting to order? All right, we will now commence the third city budget meeting, May 13, 2026. Calling the meeting to order. Are any of the people in the room here to make public comment? I believe that's the first thing. We have one person making public comment. Okay, I assume you are already registered with city reporter and ready to go? Oh, hang it easy on me.
Good evening, thank you so much. My name is Lorraine Lyons, I'm here. Representing Hood River Adopt a Dog, the board asked me to come today. I think some things that I will share with you are probably blatantly obvious, but I think there's some things that may come as a surprise to you. Hood River Adopt a Dog has contracted with the county. I brought notes and I'm gonna go AWOL, so that's good or bad, I don't know. We have contracted with the county to help with animal control services. And the city kindly pays the county for animal control services. The problem for Hood River Adopt a Dog is that the county drops off the dogs. And then we provide all the services, everything. So when animal control or law enforcement brings a dog to the Hukari shelter, which was a gift from the Hukari family, Hood River Adopt a Dog picks up the tab. And like anything else in America today, it is becoming harder and harder and harder to raise money. So we house every stray, abandoned, shot, injured dog in the county. And we have no funding from any government entity. The Hukaris, with the building of the shelter, which they gifted to the county, we lease for $1 a year, which is a great gift to us, obviously, because we have a place to render these services. However, the money that the county gives to, the city gives to the police department, which I think, according to Chief, is budgeted at about $50,000 this year, we see none of. So that essentially pays for animal control. I think it's important for council to note that Hood River City law enforcement does a lot of that shuttling and a lot of that work for the county. Not that the county doesn't do work. Animal control is our animal control officer, Amanda Cochran, is amazing. She does great work. However, I mean, we have to have animal services in this county. And without some kind of funding, I can tell you that Hood River Adopt a Dog will not survive. We operate with a board of directors that is all volunteer. Every single one of them, like city, you're giving your time, you're giving your time, you're giving your time, you're giving your time. Staff goes through the worst of it. They see it all, they deal with it all. I mean, I can tell you stories of the animals that we get and the abuse that we get and the things that we deal with. And they just take it stride and go. So what I'm asking of the budget committee is to please take a look at how you handle that agreement with the county and how that money is being spent, if you can. I don't even know if you can. But we really need some reliable funding. The Hukari Fund that we've had the pleasure of getting about $39,000 a year from for a number of years, the county is now exhausted. So we had about 2 more payments left and that's gone. So that's less than 10% of our annual operating budget. We operate on about a $415,000 budget for this year. And that's for the entire county. So that's Cascade Lodge all the way. That's the whole county. We operate a business on $400,000 a year. I think that's pretty impressive. We have a lot of volunteers. But we need help. And 2 years ago, we pleaded with the community to save our shelter. And the community came out and in a big way and make great donations, but we're already almost exhausted that reserve, and we're exhausted, money's exhausted, it's all exhausted. So if you could, please, just take into consideration as you consider your budget, how you agree to spend that money that you give to the county, that would be great. We were hamstrung by a contract with the county that said we could receive no money from any third party entity greater than what the county gives us, which is 0. But that contract we're on month to month. So, I've met with the county, we all know where the county is at, the county has made public that there is no money for us, so once Hikari is done, there's that money's open. We're not placing any blame, we're just pleading with our community to help support a service that is needed. I mean, it's just needed, and thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
What am I supposed to do now?
What's on the agenda?
Okay, do we have a motion to approve meeting minutes from May 6th? Or, yeah, from May 6th. Anybody?
I motion we.
Thank you, Doc.
Meeting minutes from May 6th.
I'll second.
So wait a second. Thank you, Anna. All right, meeting minutes from May 6th have been approved.
We need a vote.
Okay, let's call for a vote to approve the meeting minutes. Thank you. Everybody good? Everybody say aye, that approves the meeting minutes?
Aye.
Anybody disapprove the meeting minutes? Okay, meeting minutes pass.
There you go.
Thrown off by testimony. Okay, so first up is Public Works on roads, I believe. So that's what's on my schedule.
Good evening, council and budget committee. I am Adam Hewitt, I'm your public works director, and I am joined by Haley Nowlet, senior management analyst for public works as well. And before I get started, I'd like to recognize both Haley and Chris. The minimal amount of time that we spend grinding out this budget every year, these two are working on this day in and day out. It doesn't go unrecognized, and truly the reason why we can get these projects done. So really appreciate that. This is, I mean, I was realizing earlier, you never realize how fast a year goes by until you do the budget presentation.
Yeah.
Jen, it's not letting me advance the page. Oh, there it is. There we go. All right, public works overview. So the public works department, responsible for streets and parking meters, sewer and stormwater collection system, wastewater treatment plant, water distribution system, engineering department, permits and right of way, and utility billing. We currently have 9 office staff members and 13 public works crew members, and I am happy to say that we are currently fully staffed at public works, so that's exciting. And I have to give kudos to Sandy Galvez, the HR manager with the city. She's been a huge contribution to some incredibly talented staff that we've recently picked up. We also provide technical support to other city departments. Our office consists of a senior management analyst, a senior project manager, a right-of-way construction inspector, a permit specialist, operations manager, GIS coordinator, an engineer, and utility billing technician and public works director. And then our operations side, they're split into roads, sewer, stormwater, water, and parks, and all of these individuals, they're cross-trained throughout all divisions. We're on call 24 hours, so they all are on rotation with here as well. And then in addition to those, we also need Mosher's water meters. All right, the roads department provides maintenance and repairs to 75 lane miles of city roads and public right of ways. The duties include paving and patching of roadways, sanding and plowing during the winter, street light and street tree maintenance, parking meter maintenance and collection, curb painting, and thermoplastic installation for parking stalls and stop bars throughout the city. Four of our guys there, taking down some motorcycle only parking.
Ask a quick question about that.
Yeah.
I thought it was with all the purple light thing, I thought the street lights were Pacific Power.
No, our street lights are just the classic lights. The actual like big Cobra ones that you see outside of, let's just say outside of city or outside of the downtown corridor, those are all Pacific Power. So like the classic lights, the blue lights with the big globes, those are all on our responsibility of the public works.
Okay, but that's it.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, the ones that are turning purple are not us.
Right.
Thanks for.
Yeah.
Here's some photos, guys getting the sander ready for winter, and then, we've had the opportunity of doing the Civics 101 classes up in Public Works, those have been fun, and then, putting down some thermoplastic, representatives to City Hall. And then some more thermoplastic and, Mikel Jubitz, our permit specialist, and then, the, road scholar, or the, excuse me, the Civics 101 class there as well. And then this winter we had a pretty significant storm, windstorm that came through. This was over on 7th Street. Tree went down. It was in the part of it was in the right of way, part of it was on private property. Pretty big tree, did some damage to the vehicle, and then we removed the section that was just in the street.
I just want to say I was walking that morning at 6 and I came upon that guy. He was standing on the tree and his car had just been smashed. And he said to me, "Look at the rainbow." There was a beautiful rainbow. It was like, okay, that's a good attitude.
What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Sanitary sewer. The sanitary sewer department provides maintenance and repairs for approximately 55 miles of sewer pipe. Duties include using a combination vacuum jetter truck to provide preventative maintenance on sewer lines, repairing broken pipes and manholes, root abatement within pipes to prevent blockages, and providing maintenance on six lift stations throughout town. Some photos of that's the combo truck is what we call it. It has a vacuum there. It's in that hole, sucking up some water, and then the reel on the front is what we use to go into the pipes. All right, wastewater treatment plant. The wastewater treatment plant is part of the sewer division and is the final collection point for all cities or for all city sewer, and the sewer influent is treated prior to be discharged into the Columbia River. Some highlights from this past year. DEQ approved our wastewater facility plan, and I will be bringing that to council in June for adoption. And also, the Jacob staff has begun drafting the FOG program for the city. So much needed on the FOG program, and huge stuff. So that's fast oils and things. Sorry.
That's nice and big.
Stormwater department manages the stormwater and provides repair and maintenance to 60 miles of pipes and 1,300 catch basins throughout town. Their duties include emergency response to stormwater related issues during rain events, street sweeping to avoid blockages and storm drains, and catch basin preventive maintenance to avoid overflows. We have several detention ponds throughout town that are maintaining one of the detention ponds in that photo there. This was a pretty significant rainstorm that we had this winter. This has been kind of an ongoing problem. I'll touch on this here in a little bit, another slide. This is on Columbia Street. We have kind of some failing infrastructure down there, and this is sandbagging and doing what we can to kind of get through this storm and prepare ourselves for catch basin installation when the weather gets better. So this is the catch basin that was installed on the left to help alleviate the issue. City staff identified multiple locations throughout town that needed. These were some of them were insurance claims around flooding, and so over the last 2 years we've installed several catch basins throughout town to alleviate those issues. A photo of couple of open ditches we have in town. There's several locations in town that have open ditches going through backyards. The grates are a big issue with leaf debris building up on them. Get a big rainstorm coming through, and the grates can become plugged, and those open ditches overflow, usually in someone's backyard. The water department ensures that safe and constant flow of water to the community, and manages approximately 83 miles of pipe and associated facilities sourced from 3 springs that feed into 1 main collection box. I think most of the council has been up to the collection box, about 16 miles out of town. Water duties. Water meter installation and maintenance. The city currently has roughly 3,600 service connections throughout the city and outside of city limits, all the way up into the D area. We have 1,500 water valves, 43 pressure reducing valves, 3 reservoirs, 400 hydrants that are flushed annually. Water supply quality analysis, we do over 150 areas. We take over 150 water samples annually. Operation and maintenance of the hydrofluoric generation system, water line repair and maintenance, and operation and maintenance of the newly installed hydro facility. And I will add that as of Friday, the hydro facility has been online and it's generating electricity. So this is some of the work of our GIS manager, Nick Geisler. He has done an incredible job in this last kind of fall and into spring. We flushed all the hydrants in town, and so recorded all of that data. So you can click on within our GIS, we can click on those hydrants and it'll pull up static pressure in all of those locations. So this was one of our capital projects. This was on Columbia Street between 8th and 10th. The contractor hit one of the live water connections down there. This is pretty typical for the capital projects that we have. The city does spend quite a bit of time down there on these projects. When you dig into the street, you just never know what you're gonna find, and so a lot of times it could be locating issues where something wasn't located or something was there that we didn't know was there. So it's I would say it's a fairly common as far as going to a project, a fairly common occurrence for us to have to visit some of these projects more than one time. And it's not a fault of the contractor, it's just part of doing business. All right, Parks Department. The city has 13 parks and open spaces. we're currently contracted with Crystal Greens Landscaping, they do, the landscaping and irrigation maintenance in the parks. City staff does general facilities maintenance, and does not fall under the landscape, agreement. And, I would like to, just for context, Councilor Rivera had some questions, at one of the last meetings, regarding staffing in parks and, in 2021 and 2022, at the time, the city currently had 3 full-time parks staff. We also had budgeted $45,000 for some additional summer help. In that year, we failed to hire anyone. No one applied for summer help at the time. We had 2 departures from the Parks Department that put employment elsewhere. And so at that time, the city decided that they would use that $45K to contract with an outside contractor to come in and manage the 3 Jackson Children's and Waterfront. And at the time, we awarded the contract to a company out of the Dalles. And so for a year, they maintained those 3 parks, and it worked out as a great pilot program to kind of see how this would work. And following that, the 1 FTE we have in the parks departed for another job as well. And so at the time, the city worked with the union and came to an agreement that we would hire an outside contractor. So the city put out an RFP and awarded Crystal Greens the contract. And so that's where we are now. Crystal Greens maintains all of our parks, and they only maintain the parks from a certain time. It's like April 1st to November 1st, something along those lines. So basically your summer months, and then we maintain the parks if there's anything in there during that time. Jake is actually the guy on the left there. He's our 1 FTE that works full-time in the parks. He takes care of different things. And like Stratton Rose Garden, that's one of their parks, and doing some cleaning up down there. And I'll also say that there was a period of time, like 15 years ago, I was managing the parks here for the city, and as hard as it is to say, the parks look better today than they've ever looked. So it's been working out well. There's great communication with staff. So
Adam, can I ask a quick question about that? So overall, with outsourcing to a third party as opposed to managing it in-house, is that a like fiscal benefit to Public Works overall? Like, has it been more cost effective to do it that way than to try to recruit and retain employees?
Yeah,
like
great question. Yeah, so currently our contract this fiscal year with Crystal Greens is $162,000. So I remember back when we had 3 FTE, and again, at the time, I don't, the allocations may not have been correctly coming out of just the general fund of the Parks Department, but that was like just skimping by still with 3 FTE in there. I mean, when these get, so Crystal Greens comes out once a week and visits all of the, sometimes twice a week when it like picks up in the summertime, but they bring out a crew of like 10 personnel and go through every single park and do things that we would never be able to do, even if we had like the 3 FTE. I mean, one guy is basically just doing maintenance, so that's playground and restrooms and parks that aren't lit. I mean, there's still a couple little pocket parks that we have that Jake takes care of, but that's just one person. So even if you added 2 more, and by the time you pay wages and benefits, 162,000 is definitely significantly less than what we would invest if we brought this back in-house.
Okay, thank you.
Jackson Park on the left, this was just like a month ago maybe. And these are the kind of things that Jake takes care of. And not that this is a common occurrence, but it's definitely happening. State Street restrooms pretty big on vandalism. On the right, we did a beach renovation at Waterfront Park. I don't know if many of you have had a chance to make it down there, but added several picnic tables and then an elevated area for the picnic tables down there. Looks really nice. If you haven't been down there, I would suggest the warm weather coming, check it out. All right. provide fleet management. We have one FTE, one full-time mechanic that provides maintenance to public works fleet and police fleet. He also manages procurement for our vehicles. Vehicle replacement fund, currently this fiscal year, we're up for 6 vehicles to be replaced. 3 of those are just crew trucks. Couple bigger items on there, the mini and street sweeper. And then the brusher chipper was kind of a last minute addition. We've borrowed the county's, but I've been here for almost 26 years. We've borrowed the same chipper from the county for 26 years, and we're getting to the point now where we're just like repairing the chipper. So I think it's time the city invests in the chipper. So we do a lot of we go through the entire town. Every 4 years, we choose a quarter of the town. What the residents don't trim, we trim back to make sure that both the sidewalks and the streets are safe. All right, parking. Parking's kind of been touched on by both Neil and Chris. So we have 1 FTE in allocations to the parking fund. Parking maintains, collects and repairs 52 tally meters throughout town. And then we also maintain parking lot striping, lights, electrical connections, and landscaping. Engineering, couple new employees there. I guess we're almost coming on a year already. Andy Robinson on the left and Nick Geisler on the right. Engineer on the left, GIS coordinator on the right. So the engineering department establishes and ensures standards are being met to preserve the city's infrastructure and right of way. Duties include planning and implementing department capital projects, private and public development plan reviews, issuance of right of ways and sign permits, and construction inspections. We just recently, saved another year, but purchased a plotter. That's what they're standing next to, so we can now print plans in-house. Maps, things like that. We use a lot of maps with operations staff to just mark out assets we found. All right, asset management. So the city had an asset management program for several years, and a couple of years ago we realized that it just wasn't the program that we had wasn't meeting our needs. And so we canceled that contract, and Nick has done a really good job with just using Esri as so our current GIS program that we're using to track like the items that I mentioned earlier. So this year we've budgeted $25K to start implementing an asset management program. And so this slide basically explains what asset management is. And some of the big takeaways on this would be work orders, work scheduling. The other part of it is the capital improvement plan and being able to age and like see the aging condition and also maintenance reports on our assets throughout town. So Nick's actually procuring this right now. So he's working with 3 asset management software options. Those have been identified, and each option, I think more importantly, it has a modular service that comes with it. And our goal in this is that, you know, we find a program that will work for public works, but it'll also work for any other department within the city to use if they wanted to use it down the road. And so we could just add to it. So this is going to be, so currently budgeted the 25K. This is going to be an ongoing expense for the city. Very, I think, positive thing that we're bringing in. This has been a long time coming. So we're excited to get the ball rolling on this and get our staff involved with kind of what they want.
So when you say other departments, is that like something Chris could use for fixed asset management, or is that totally different?
Yeah, and I mean, this would be building and fire and, you know, if police needed to use it, but yeah,
Fill those types of assets.
yeah, so,
That's not like managing depreciation or any of that.
Physical assets.
Well, they're still depreciated, but sometimes the fiscal asset management stuff is combined with the accounting. So it's just fascinating.
all right. This is a photo of projects completed to date, areas throughout town. And this pie shows the project spent by fund this last fiscal year. So we spent $8.8 million on projects. Storm was a significant one, as Will was just discussing. We completed the waterfront storm project. It was a big cost for our storm water fund. And then the remaining was projects that would be outlined in this. And I think key takeaways from this list: Hydro, Columbia 8th to 10th, waterfront stormwater phase 4 and 5, waterfront beach renovation, buildings, park sidewalk, fence, basketball court, the stormwater master plan. I think that thing's been in the works since 2017, and we finally got it to the finish line. Well, it's almost to the finish line. And the electric vehicle purchase. And I'd like to touch on that real quick. The city purchased 4 EVs. We received 3. We're waiting on a Chevy pickup truck. Thanks to Haley, she submitted a grant. It was through ODOT for the Federal Highway Carbon Reduction Plan. And the city was given the grant, and so in total, those 4 vehicles cost the city, I believe, less than $27,000. So, really cool. It's really exciting for public works, and I think, you know, the EV thing, it's definitely been the talk. And our biggest thing is plow and snow, and our fleet vehicles are full-size trucks with plows on them, and there's just not an electric vehicle out there yet that would work for plow, like to get a plow. Nothing heavy enough to get a plow on. So our water meter reader truck was up for replacement, and it was a Toyota Tacoma, and so we felt like it was perfect. So we're bringing in the Chevy 4x4 it's a mid-size truck, and this will give us a really good idea of how this is going to work with using an EV throughout our town, and then especially, you know, we're reading meters in Mosier, we're reading meters in D, so I think we'll get a good idea of how it'll work for us in the future. A couple parks projects that we did this last year. Some of you may have noticed the fence at Children's Park that was just installed here this last week. A perimeter around it to contain the kids in the playground area, and I believe they'll be working on the fencing around the basketball court in the next coming weeks there as well. And then the other one is down at Waterfront Park. Some softball was installed. It was an area that we were having a really hard time getting grass to grow just because of the foot traffic, and so we kind of little pilot project, put in some softball there. We'll see how that holds up over time. Here's a photo of the stormwater project. So this was phase 5. This was right below the big seven building. This is the first filtration catch basin that the city has installed. So those access points, so the lid is on the left there being installed. Those 4 access holes will be able to pull out basically giant socks that are in there that we can clean with our combo truck. With high pressure on the combo truck, we can clean them off on a like revolving maintenance schedule. Stormwater phase 4 on the left I believe the one in the middle is Columbia and Eighth, just kind of showing you. How complicated it can be sometimes when you open the ground up and what you gotta go through and get through and up and over. Top right is Columbia and Eighth as well. Little device there in the bottom of the picture is a density tester, so the rock is tested for density for compaction before they pave it. And then the bottom is the stormwater 4, that's the I-84 bridge crossing right there. More stormwater. Same project. This is dehydro, so some complications with that one. There's pretty big change orders that came in for that rock that's in that photo. That gray thing that is sitting in front of the excavator. I think they actually ended up drilling it and filling it with an epoxy that would expand the rock to actually break it. So complications there. Concrete foundation up on the top right. That pad that's there, that kind of square pad, that's what the turbine is sitting on currently. And then the building below that, building production, and then yeah, strainer. The blue thing is a strainer, so this is very finely tuned piece of machinery with the wicket gates in there, and the last thing you want going through it is a rock. And so the rectangular blue thing is just a giant strainer, keep water, any rocks or anything, not that we see that, but if there was ever a upstream break in our line and we did get rocks in there, it would be detrimental to the turbine. So photo of the turbine there. The shot of the part. All right. So you saw the map earlier, kind of outlining what we've done. Here's what we still need to do. And that's not this fiscal year. All right, so here's the list for fiscal year 26-27. Outlined by department. But you know, the funds coming from each department for each project, you'll see some of them are overlapping. Columbia pipe replacement is got water, sewer, and storm in there. That's a big hit. That's a several $1 million project throughout all funds. The other project is the Whole Street project. We'll be replacing water and sewer on that street as well. That's a street that we've had a lot of sewer issues with. That pipes on it as well. Primary clarifier down at the wastewater treatment plant. That's scheduled for repair as well. A big project coming up. And then the down stormwater, 13th Street, Cascade, and Lincoln. Those photos that I showed you of the flooding that was going on Columbia Street is because of the stormwater line down there. So our stormwater fund is pretty slim, so it's can be tough to choose projects within the stormwater fund, but that one has we have had insurance claims on that project or that issue. So
for the Jackson Park renovation is Collins Field. Do we understand timeline? Like, is that going to impact, you know, baseball and softball that's being played on there right now? Would that happen in the fall?
Yeah, great question. It would happen in the fall. It would either happen in the fall or spring. Yeah, we would not impact.
Okay.
Yeah. I would never look that up. And then there's another project that's listed up there, I-84 bridge sewer line replacement. So some of you may be aware, but the westbound bridge going over the I guess it would be it's not even train tracks that go through there. There's it's like it's right next to our wastewater treatment plant. It's a bridge that you go over on I-84. So ODOT is going to be replacing that section of the highway, and our water and sewer runs underneath that, and so we are going to have to move both our water and sewer. And this was a project that happened and came up 2 months ago. Yeah, 2 months ago max. We just found out about it, so this is one of those projects that while it's over $1 million between two funds. It's one of those that you kind of just have to shift gears, move things around. Maybe push our project back that we had previously budgeted for this fiscal year. So that's another one that kind of sprung up on us, but good one for the sewer infrastructure. Sewer infrastructure is undersized on that one, so unfortunately the water was done just 15 years ago, but the sewer will be a big one for the city to get in there, especially in the wetland area. We're gonna piggyback on the ODOT's permits for that, so. Streamlining out. Yeah, go ahead.
What is pressure zone mapping? It's a water project, but like,
Yeah.
what is it?
Yeah, so we have, I think, 5 pressure zones throughout the city, so. We have 0 pumps throughout the entire city, so our water is gravity fed from 16 miles out of town all the way into town. We never once turned it through a pump to increase pressure, and so as it's coming into town, we're knocking that pressure down. So we have the zones throughout town, and we haven't utilized Tow Reservoir, which is the reservoir where the pickleball court is. And then there's multiple other places in town that are identified within our water master plan that either have insufficient fire flow or under pressure. And so we're gonna go through, this is again one of those, I worked on this probably back in 2012. Go through and revamp the entire pressure zone and then go out and adjust all of the pressure reducing valves to match the pressure zone, and that way we have adequate fire flow. Alright, so pie chart kind of just showing you this fiscal year, where we're spending money in each fund. Sewer's big impact is gonna be elevated sewer, we're gonna design on that right now. Yeah, the rest of them, nothing crazy, $13 million, and I mean, the cost is crazy, but $13 million in projects, this fiscal year, so it'll be a really busy summer and fall, and spring, and winter, so. Alright, so you may ask, how do you pick a project, how do you go through town and find and so on? And so, again, master plans, we have master plans for water, streets, storm and sewer. We also use the transportation system plan, go off of the safe routes to school plan, and then the parks capital improvement plan. And then in 2022, HBH Engineering did an infiltration and inflow engineered report. That's where a lot of our sewer data comes from, and kind of, I would say more of the prioritizing for sewer came from infiltration and inflow. I would say we probably knocked 75% of those kind of high profile where we were seeing infiltration into our storm lines off of the list. And now just kind of going on more of the insurance claim and TV video information that we're getting when we're out there TVing these lines, and kind of operators seeing what's going on. And then again with the I-84 project, coordination with other agencies like ODOT. And then, the state has a requirement that we remove all leaded joints by 2036. So that's really impacting, I would say it's really the only impact for the water fund right now is the leaded removal. And then, of course, our guys, boots on the ground, and then feedback from those guys as well. And then we also have high impact areas, so again, high inflow and infiltration, aging failing pipelines, leaded joints, inadequate fire flows, and inadequate capacity, and then high insurance plans. And then the timing part of these, so that's another big one. We have, so Columbia 8th to 10th, we just wrapped that project up. We have Cascade 6th to 15th, then we have Oak, so that Cascade project's coming up, then we have Oak Street 6th to 13th on that project. And so obviously we can't close down all of those streets at the same time, so we have to be very careful with which project we do, just so we can get traffic in and out of town as well. So while the Columbia Street is extremely important to get done, you'll see I have some photos of Oak Street and the sewer line out there. You'll kind of see where we are with that, and you'll probably ask yourself, why aren't you putting that in front of Cascade? But I've seen the Cascade footage. I think you guys did well, maybe last year, the year before. So that's how we prioritize projects, and then, there's a note at the bottom there. And this is, kind of falls back to that IV4 project. Things change, we may need to, push one project back to take another project on, just because of, could be of timelines or, extreme failing infrastructure.
There was a bunch of Northwest Natural trucks on 12th the other day, it got me thinking about the coordination where it's like. You dig up the street to do this, and then you dig up the street, it must be just impossible to optimize. Batching them together, but
Yeah.
obviously it's on the mind.
Yeah, so Randy, our project manager, great comment. So he works, so when we plan a project out, we go through a design for an engineering design firm to design these projects. When we get back the design, there may be other infrastructure, power, gas that is in our way. And so we then need to reach out to them and we require them to move their, so a lot of time, timing on these, we're waiting on them. This happened on, I believe both Prospect and Montello when we did those projects. We're waiting on them to move their facilities so then we can come in and lay our facilities where they need to be.
Adam, I have a question, we're this close, I wish I would have asked this when Megan was here. To being in a drought, so as we think about water, like. Should there be some sort of contingency, like if we were in a drought, how would that impact the city, if at all?
Yeah, good question. Drought's interesting for us, so we're glacier fed, so our highest flows are gonna be in the summertime, so. This really, it's kind of odd because we try to track our usage and spring rates in the wintertime, because that's when. For one, our flow is lowest, but we're also getting less flow from those glaciers, and so. At the time, I've been here long enough to go through several of these kind of droughts, and I've never seen our springs where in the summertime we showed any impact, and I've also never seen it in the wintertime, just because we have such high tourism in the summertime, so we got high flow in the summertime, but in the wintertime, tourism's way down and we have significantly less flow. And so, we also have, and not to rely on it, because we will probably all be under the same situation if this was ever to come, but we have interties with both Crystal Springs and Ice Fountain as well, so. If we had to, we could give them water, they could give us water in a situation where there was a drought, the spring went dry, and so they're protected as well, and we are as well, but, yeah, as far as like, planning for, we do have another spring that we're not utilizing at all right now, and we've kind of recently started talking about the possibility of looking into what it would take to, rehab the spring and, do a study to see exactly what we would get out of that if we needed it in the future.
I mean, that's a great piece to my next point. I was just reading that the city of Bend has like a state of water report that they put out just to let their constituents know, like, here's our water status. And then given that they have many hydropowers or hydro pump stations, they talk about like the ground and the surface source, and a lot of their, like, they're set on water is what the report was saying, but I wondered if we did something along those lines just to prepare.
Sure. Yeah, great idea. Yeah, and I've seen in the past too, where, I think a lot of residents kind of take matter into their own hands when these droughts happen, and you'll start seeing signs in yards that, my yard's, dead because I'm conserving water,
Yeah.
so. I will say, we have seen that in the past, and it's looking like we'll probably see something similar to that this summer, so.
A question about water supply, since you guys are talking about it, I was reading Facebook. Always a good idea, and there was all the talk about them taking water from Mount Hood and shuttling it to the Dalles, for one of the data centers or something. Seemed to be a lot of discussion on Facebook. Is that something that the council, like, that you guys are talking about, that affects, like?
I haven't heard anything about that.
Nothing about it.
No, the effects
Was
of.
this like 50 acres?
Maybe,
Alex.
I'm gonna give a quick comment on that.
Okay.
The Hood River County Board of Commissioners had a discussion of that, and I shared a piece of their packet with city council. The really short answer is, the city of the Dells has senior water rights. They're more senior than ours. And also I think, so they have, I mean, they're exercising the existing water rights. So, those water rights actually date back to like this city's founding. They're back from the late 1800s.
1872.
Thank you. Yeah, right away back. Also, I think, from that report, I don't remember the specifics, but I do believe Water Master, best title ever, said that, they're pulling that, I think at times when, they're not worried about other flows. So it would not, like, it's kind of on the off cycle right with that. I think they have seasonal water rights that would really be effective, that they can draw more in the winter, which is not as big a deal, for many of the, surface water, rights. I think there was one more point of, there's one other important point, which was the point of diversion. I wanna say it was above our water rights. Meaning that they're drawing the water, I think it was above or below. Maybe it was below.
Just consider it now.
Yeah,
I would think it would probably.
They pull out of Dog River.
yeah, they pull out a different tributary than we do, so all to say, it's a big deal, but from a legal point of view, they've always had that right to just exercise it. And from a practical point of view for the city of Hood River, it did not look like it would have an impact.
Okay. There's definitely comments by people that lived in this city
Sure,
spun up on it.
Yeah.
As we call Facebook.
I can share with Jen the packet, the pieces that I pulled out of the Hood River County packet and the date, if you wanted to watch their meeting where it was discussed. Or read the materials that were provided, so I can show those up. Thanks for the question.
Can I ask a second question while I'm here? Personnel, like when I look at what is on the page of 58, you basically have 25 people accounted for under Public Works, whereas when you go to page 9, it shows 21. So is that like the other 4 are kind of administrative or like what? Yeah, I understand because, well, partially, because obviously you're counting up a lot of percentages of people, which isn't what happens, but,
So if you look, so the distinction is, on the chart on page 9. Those are public works employees that are not allocated to other, funds. And so you'll see, for example, on page 58, this includes the personnel that are allocated in parks, engineering, parking, and all of those are in the general fund. So for example, parks and engineering and parking all have their own FTE on the table on page 9. This is just this is the sort of dual purpose, right? Public works and how they're allocated. So when Adam talks about sort of his personnel within public works, it's all the personnel that he's directing, even if they have a partial allocation to the general fund or to the equipment fund, etc.
okay. Thank you.
Alright, so this last year, this fiscal year, we purchased a sewer van that has a camera on it, and this was the first project that we used it on. So when we do capital projects, all the sewer line and storm line within that project are TV'd, and so this consists of us, would have consisted of us hiring an outside company to come in with their TV equipment and run our pipes, and usually we provide assistance to them. So since we've now purchased our own, these are some just snapshots of, this is Oak Street. This is the project that'll be happening, I believe, in 28 is when we started this project, be from 6th to 12th Street. So terracotta pipe, that's like clay pipe, Orangeburg is what they call it as well. Top left one, just a hole in the side of it, there's rocks that you can see through. Bottom left, there's root intrusion in that one. And the bottom right one, it's real typical. The terracotta type is typically in 3-foot sections. Usually there's a lot of cracking in all of the piping. the top right one, it's 7th and Oak, there's some larger townhomes that are on the uphill side of Oak Street. That is a kind of a manifold that was installed for all of those houses, so they each have their own sewer connection in Oak Street. And I just thought it was cool, because the water that you can see coming in there is from one of the laterals, and then each one of those white things in the kind of in that top right corner, those are all the connections for all those homes. So you can kind of see how each home has their, their own connection going into the sewer line. So that's probably the newest piece of pipe on that street, but it'll come out when we replace it. All right, last but not least. So again, some footage, so we can go in. We can name exactly what we're doing, label everything, and then Nick will upload this to our current GIS. And we have asset management, this will go into asset management, and so, we can click on that section of pipe within our GIS. And then we can review these live, like right from the comfort of our desk, and kind of see what we have. So it measures how many feet, you can see bottom left, 8 feet into the pipe right now. I didn't see what manhole where it is somewhere on Oak Street. This was December 3rd, this last winter. Again, real typical for clay pipe to have a lot of root intrusion, and then just a lot of cracking as well.
Is this storm or sewer?
This is sewer. Oh man, I would say it's probably 7 years old. Like a lot of it's around that same vintage, like 70. I mean, for the most part, like a lot of this is it has held up well. It's just different locations where I think the earth moves more than it does in others, and when it moves, the clay pipe moves too.
So like what, 10-inch pipe?
I believe this is an 8-inch, but I could be wrong. I did say at the beginning of it, I didn't catch it. There's some cracking there, you can see. Yeah. Smell on something squinting.
It is some fish at the spear land.
Yeah, so
And like,
one thing with this is you can imagine toilet paper going down. Those roots all grab the toilet paper. So over time, that toilet paper stacks up and stacks up and stacks up, and then that's when we get the call that we now have a plug. And so on our jet runner, we have different nozzles that we can use. One of them is called a penetrator nozzle, and it has a jet that goes out the front, and so we can go into those blockages, and we're running like 3,500 PSI, and it's a pretty good stream of that, and it'll just blast and move everything right out of the way, and then you can pull all of that out, and then we back it out in our truck, and we take it down to the wastewater treatment plant and dump it. Yeah, and we have root cutter heads for it as well. So again, it has a spinning bearing, and so it sounds like a jet engine in the pipe, and it's got 2 jets that basically fan out and just like blast grease off of. Maybe next year I'll bring a grease pipe video, and we can check that out. All right. All right. That is it. That's our staff. Recent photos of staff. Nick was awarded employee of the quarter. That's certificate there. With that, I will open the floor to questions.
I have a question, Adam. Okay, so looking through the different budgets that you have for all these different funds, I'm happy to see that some of them balance, like you got more resources or revenue versus in the house, but I'm kind of confused. And I'm still kind of learning how all this works, but for the wastewater treatment plant, we're actually, it says that we're operating at a $3.7 million deficit, or we have that expenditures are. We have $3.7 million. Well, wait, if I'm reading it right, I'm just curious, like, and it looks like the total, the total expenditures for the last several years have grossly outweighed the revenue. I'm just curious, how are we operating that?
Yeah, so the sewer fund's a unique one as far as how it's accounted for in that part of the budget though. It's actually analogous to how the general fund works, where the revenues are in one portion of the fund. And a lot of the expenses are in another fund. So in other words, in the general fund, the non-departmental fund 190 is where all the revenues come in. And then you have sort of fire, police, planning, etc. Most of those operating at a deficit, but all pulling from the revenues that are into non-departmental. Sewer works the same. So in your budget book, if you look at page 77, this is Fund 500. So Fund 500, yeah, so Fund 500, 500, you'll see that the sewer usage receipts of 5.2 million, as far as all, and as well as all the loan proceeds and other sources. So that's the primary receipt of revenues. Then the next page is 78, sewer operations fund 505, and the fund that you referenced on page 81, which is fund 510. Those are all sub funds within the sewer. So 500 is revenues, 505, 510 are permanently expenses, and so collectively all of those should come.
Okay. Thank you for explaining that. It's kind of scary looking.
I'm just curious with ODOT, so it sounds like we need years for them to get back to us, but then they can give you 2 months' notice.
Yeah. Yes.
Second, yeah.
Fortunately, that's how it goes, and like them identifying projects, and this one had been on the radar for a while. The problem is when they go through design, their design wasn't updated, so like it takes a long time for them to go through design. So I imagine this project's been in design for like 3 years, and so it's then identified that, oh wow, we have other utilities that have infrastructure that are in our way, and then they contact us and say, oh hey, you need to move that, and you need to move it by the state. And I think part of this also is us wanting to take advantage of the fact that they're gonna have wetland permits, and those are extremely hard to get. And so we're in a way that benefiting from this. So our existing sewer main that goes underneath the freeway right now is probably like something like 30 feet deep. So we're gonna get our sewer line from underneath the freeway and get it underneath the overpass. So again, water, unfortunately, was replaced recently. It is what it is, but this is definitely, I would say, a huge benefit to have the opportunity to reroute this at a reduced cost.
Thank you.
I have a question. So congratulations on hydropower. As we think of that being a way to generate revenue in the future, I remember you gave us some estimates. I can't remember what those are off the top of my head, but a lot of lessons learned this time around. How many more would you foresee that the city could replicate so that we can continue trying to generate revenue?
So, and you're just referring to hydro on this? So when this project was brought to the city, back in like 2019, there was 2 locations identified. The other one is Belmont, and the problem with Belmont is the pressure differential there. I could see the use of a hydro facility being there. I think the downfall to the hydro facility is if you don't have grants established, the significant cost of the project outweighs the return. I mean, the return base so far down the road. So I mean, there may be a day where grants are paying for a much larger portion of the project, and then I think at that point. It'd be worth looking back into this, and it's, really, if we had power up at the springs, that's like the ultimate location, but we're a long ways from getting power to the springs, because. Right now, we're discharging something like 3,500 gallons a minute back into the river up there, and so, you could discharge through a hydro facility directly back into the river, and it would have no downstream implications whatsoever, and that was a lot of looking at it on this project that we had.
Thank you.
Yeah, so it's like, if I can just talk to that a little bit as well, because, so if you look at, page 67 on the budget book, you'll see that the line item, for the hydropower generation revenue. And so that is part of a purchase contract, with Civil Power. The generator produces about $35,000 of revenue per year. The overall project cost is about 1.9 million.
Yeah.
So without the benefit of grants, and sort of other development incentives, it just doesn't pencil for the city. The way that the project was developed originally was underwritten for a 10-year return on the city's investment. We just recently updated this, and I think we're roughly there. But it is, but without subsidies, unfortunately, these projects just don't pass on.
Any more questions? Okay.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Grease pipe next time.
All right,
Yeah, right.
then noted.
Well, my little roadmap is a little confusing to me at this point, because it says public hearings after that, but we already had public comment.
We gotta do the script. There's that other script she gave you, that's just our agenda.
This one?
Yeah.
We already went through that.
So we went through, you haven't done the hearing.
Oh, well, we will now take, this is the time scheduled for a public hearing regarding proposed budget for fiscal year 2026-27 and the use of state shared revenue for the city of Wood River. We will now take public testimony. City recorder, has anyone registered to speak or provided written testimony? Not yet? Okay.
No.
Well, we will take that as a no. So the public hearing on the fiscal year 2026-27 proposed budget and use of state shared revenue is now closed. That makes more sense now. Okay, so I would suggest a motion. We have a motion to move that state revenue sharing money be used for purposes shown in the proposed fiscal year 2026-27 budget. Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll move that the state revenue sharing money be used for the purposes shown in the proposed fiscal year 2026-27 budget.
Thank you, Anna. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Rick. Okay, all members approving of it, say aye.
Yeah.
Anybody against, say no. Okay, so the state revenue sharing money for use for purposes shown in fiscal year 2026-27 budget have been approved. And there's no summary of changes to be amended, correct? So I don't go through that point.
So, yeah. There are a couple. Alright, okay, so, so based on conversations, and some post-budget book, sort of events, I wanted to just present a couple of things that are proposed budget corrections, modifications or additions. So the first, relates to, payroll for the city. There were two, events that have occurred since the original budget book. One, there was an update to area median incomes. So certain salaries are adjusted for area median income. And the second is that, two collective bargaining agreements, have been, essentially agreed to in principle. The overall impact on the budget is fairly significant, about $39,000 in total. But the payroll, overall payroll will be adjusted accordingly.
Is that an increase, Chris, or a
As
decrease?
it's an increase.
40,000.
About 30,000 of that, is in the general fund, the remainder is spread out across various public work funds. Moving on to the general fund. As Dustin had mentioned, in a discussion during the planning department, there is a capital and transportation study in which ODOT is the lead agency. We were recently informed that that project budget has increased, and as a result, the city's contribution portion has increased. So that's a $46,000 increase in professional services for the planning department as it relates to that particular project. What is being proposed in the revised budget is to address both the increase in overall salaries to the general fund, as well as this increase in the planning department professional services for the ODOT Cascade Avenue Transportation Study. That contingency be reduced $75,000. This would reduce contingency from $400,000 for the general fund to $325,000. I would, my particular opinion is that that would be warranted. Part of this contingency was for ODOT. And so being informed of that change at this stage seems appropriate. And then in my opinion, the contingency would still be meaningful for the general fund. The water fund, you saw in questions 3 that were circulated to the budget committee. There was a question with regards to bank and merchant fees. We've looked at bank and merchant fees that relates to the water fund, and we're recommending it down a revision of $6,000. Lastly, as you saw in the questions on the third questions that came through, the 3 reserve funds, various accounting issues over various years have resulted in these fund balances being communicated as slightly different than what their requirements are. For the USDA water line debt reserve, the balance is $7,000, almost $7,100 over what it should be. So there will be an adjustment in the revised budget to correct that balance. The extra money will be returned to the water fund. And then for the DEQ outfall debt reserve and the USDA and the Creek debt reserve, both of those are just a couple $100 off the balance. So those are the corrections to the budget as well. And that is the sum total of the changes that are recommended. So obviously subject to the vote. Thank you.
Okay. This is the public hearing part about the proposed budget changes. Does anybody have any comments or? And do I have a motion to approve the summary of changes to be amended from the proposed budget?
I motion to approve the summary of changes to be approved from the proposed budget.
Second that. Assume we need to do that. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, do we have any final deliberations?
I don't have a deliberation, but I guess I have a comment. So our county peers are also going through their budget process. They have a meeting tomorrow. I think it's either at 3 or at 4 o'clock. If you have an opportunity, please join. The county has been having conversations around how do they outsource more of their services? How do they maybe partner with the city for some of those services? Should we really have two IT different contracts? Should maybe the city and the county contract for IT services overall? So as we continue having these conversations, I've been thinking a lot about that, like, are there other areas that we could outsource? Are there opportunities where we could pool our dollars together and pool some of our staff together? We know that in 5 years, we're not gonna be in a good financial position, so what are the choices that we're making now? The contract services, or how are we bringing in a third party to help us understand? And I believe that the county's already done this to help them understand what staffing and all that looks like, and are we doing the same? So just a comment. If you have a chance to watch the meeting tomorrow, I think it's at 3 or 4 o'clock.
Oh, I'll just make a comment as well. We heard from Lorraine earlier, budget shortfalls at the River Adopt a Dog. We've heard from the district attorney, budget shortfalls there regarding staffing. There's another big one that's escaping me right now. Oh, we talked about discretionary sort of spending for ICE. Programs like, dispersing money to organizations that can give money to impacted businesses, for example. So there's been no talk of any discretionary spending, spending in all of this. There's been nothing that's been able to be brought into the budget. So just bringing that up, that, there's not a whole lot of money for us to do anything with, but other agencies, other entities, nonprofits in the area are all struggling, and everyone's looking for something, right? So it's difficult, I think, to be in the position when people come to us and ask us those sorts of things. I think with Lorraine's particular thing that she talked about earlier, we can discuss more about that in council. But yeah, it's a lot of people come to us throughout the year with shortfalls.
Gary,
Yes.
to that end, like, I think that there's a lot of policy discussions or decisions that need to be made outside of just the budget piece, but the mission of the city is to provide essential services at the lowest possible cost to continually enhance the quality of life in Hood River. Like, that's our city's mission. And when we're looking at these budget items, and I really appreciate what Gladys brought up about, like, we're gonna be running out of money. And to Doug's point too, like, we have we're in the next 5 years, we're looking to be out of reserves. So, part of budgeting is we either increase our revenue, and are we doing that effectively? Are we trying to figure out ways to do that? Or we have to cut some of our costs. And like, those are the hard, scary conversations that we have to have. And I want to first just acknowledge and recognize the people that we have that are putting these budgets together, and the hard work that goes into it, and the stuff that you guys do every day. One of my favorite things about the budget cycle is getting to hear from Chief Holsky and from Adam and from Chris and Will, and having a better, and Dustin, having a better understanding of the work that you guys do every day and what it costs and how we have to allocate this. But I mean, at some point, you guys might have some pretty hard things to look at and discuss too, of how are we gonna, how can we have balanced budget so we're not operating in a deficit and we're not dipping into those reserves. So like I said, not being the financial whiz in the room, I am not, I'll leave that to the rest of you guys, but I do know you either spend less or you figure out how to make more, or both. So those are things that, I guess maybe those are policy discussions, or maybe those are things that, like what Gladys is suggesting, we figure out how to pool our resources with some of the other entities in town. Or we shift money around a little bit, like maybe, the conversation is, how does it make sense for us to give the money to the county to help fund our animal resource issue, or do we give that money directly to Adopt a Dog? I'm not sure, but those are conversations I think, I don't know, maybe council members that have been doing this a little bit longer can say, yep, that's a conversation with our council, or this is the stuff we should be talking about in here. I don't know.
A tricky sort of boundary to hold, especially when you hear a compelling story like Adopt a Dog, is giving money away takes a lot of time, not just money, obviously, it takes money to give money away, but making those decisions, if we become the kind of place where agencies, nonprofits come apply to us for funding, I mean, that's a whole thing, like called a foundation, like, I think it's really beneficial to the city for us to be cold-hearted about not getting in the grant-making business, because that would just be like a whole sideline gig, so I've been proud of the city over the years to not do that in spite of the heartfelt pitches, so coordinating services with another government entity, that's a different question, but the holding the line on not becoming a grant making entity, I think has really benefited the city.
Thank you for pointing that out, because it does go back to what I try to keep going back to is the mission of essential services that at the lowest possible cost to enhance the quality of life in Hood River. And it's like, are we talking about the essential services, or are we talking about the frills, like the things that we want to have? And I, as much as I care about Adopt a Dog and a lot of the great nonprofits that are in our community, you know, and the public art, like I love that kind of stuff too, but are they essential, or are they just kind of the pretty additional things? And I love art. I think it's important. But yeah.
I think Adopt a Dog is a bit different, just because we do contract with the county currently with an IGA for services. We're not able to contract with Adopt a Dog, which I, for one, consider an essential service. I don't want to live in a place where we don't have an animal shelter, personally, but not. Your point is well taken, though. We have to think about essential services. I think in that particular instance, we have to think about when that IGA expires with the county, how we do things differently, and giving money away or a donation or something like that to the Hood River Adopt a Dog specifically is more problematic, I think, than when the contract expires, we discuss if the city can contract with them directly.
I want to jump in here. I think it's really important that we do have that discussion in council, and that we do see what is the contingency plan that Hood River Adopt a Dog has. If this really is a one-time donation, like what are some of the other financial aspects that they're looking to, some of the other organizations and governing entities as well, to discuss those what happens next. And I hear what the mayor has to say. I mean, we have to be mindful, given that we do know pretty soon we're not going to be in a very good financial situation, and how do we look at how are we most efficient of these dollars? I mean, when I look at things like the amount of consulting, and I think, Anna, you brought this up in our last meeting of how much are we spending on consulting services alone? This last year, there was 1.8, last year it was 1.9. So if there are opportunities where we can maybe have less than, maybe these are dollars that we are directing to potentially support organizations in the future.
I'll call on myself and make a comment. I think a lot of good comments were just made, but if all of a sudden there is no such thing as an Adopt a Dog and there's no place for stranded dogs to go, I think that the public would shortly say it is an essential service and not have wild dogs running around our streets, and it would become an issue.
Appreciate that. I also want to clarify, I don't think that what Lorraine was asking us for was a donation. We have money allocated for contract services in the police line item budget that is currently being directed to the county. So it wasn't a donation. It's let's look at how we're spending this money. But and I'm curious, you mentioned there is an IGA in place. Is that a city and county IGA, or is that a county and Adopt a Dog IGA?
City, county.
Yeah, we're the governmental agency.
That's right, it's a intergovernmental agreement between the city and the county, and then the county is the landlord or the leaser of the River Adopt a Dog. Yeah, we do not have a direct relationship with.
And the IGA does prevent a direct
Their
relationship.
lease does. Now,
Yeah.
I heard Lorraine say today that no longer applies because they're on a month to month, but I think the terms of the lease probably still apply. Yeah, so from a timing point of view, I believe the contract expires, or the contract is up for renewal with the county, or sorry, the IGA with county is up for renewal in August.
Right.
We were both hoping to get through our budget process before we start the conversation, but we will this is an item I expect council will see this summer.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Lois?
Chief, can maybe you help us understand then the $50,000 now, because I do remember that. When we looked at finances a while back. It's your officers that are doing a lot of the work in the evenings and the weekends that I asked, like specifically, how much more is this costing us than what is already being donated, so, or given through the 50,000, so how is that utilized?
So the funding is just utilized just for animal control, it has nothing to do with the dog. It's as Lorraine stated, it's just a funding of Amanda Kaufman's position of animal control. That's all that is, nothing else. She works just like any other employee, she's a 40-hour work week. She comes to work at 7:30, off at 4:30. Anytime outside those hours, the city police is obligated or responsible for taking those calls. It's the way it works.
So essentially, the city's paying for her FTE.
A portion.
A portion of her FTE, and then the rest is coming out of the sheriff's budget.
Yeah, it's kind of a split position between the both of us because we allow the 50,000.
And it
That's
does,
like, that's a placeholder this year. I really want to express this real quickly.
yeah,
I know Allison had sent a memo to you in regards to some funding requests from the county.
And that was sent to all of you in April.
And I think that's substantially more than that $15,000. Yeah. But we felt, us three felt that we wanted a placeholder in place just to say, you know, where we're at, because what they're requesting is substantially more than we were currently paying this last year. They were about 32,000 this last year, so we put a placeholder of 50,000 this year. So really, we're kind of still up in the air to what they're gonna come back at us, requesting, and then an idea what they're requesting funding for, so. That's a
And the-
placeholder. In my opinion, they already asked for more, but we've chosen to put that placeholder of 50,000.
and the 50,000 would include a portion of the FTE, but does that still? Are you considering your officers' time during evening and weekend as well?
The funding has nothing to do with our staffing whatsoever, as far as interaction with animals. That money is solely just, I'm just a pass-through.
Totally.
Up to probably 2 years ago, that fund was never in my budget line item. It was actually in administration because it was a city IDA. We've just chosen, previous finance director chosen, since we do the enforcement, we're close proximity with the sheriff's office, that they would just run that through my budget.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I hear your point. I guess what I'm trying to say is, as of now, there's an earmark for $50,000. One, and in addition to that, your staff's time that would go over the $50,000. Like, I'm trying to understand.
Oh,
the full
absolutely,
cost.
$50,000 goes away. I'm still required to pay my officers to take those animal controls that.
Right.
Falls outside those 40-hour work week. So, you know, you gotta exclude 40-hour work week, time off, training, sick leave.
Now, I'm not saying don't support or adopt a dog in these conversations at all, but I'm just trying
No,
to
this
say
is
that.
anything about dog.
Yeah.
I came to you guys probably this last year in regards to, I was frustrated when I looked into the intergovernmental agreement between Adopt a Dog and the county is, you know, when they had that clause stated they could not third-party sublease
Right.
any services from an outside agency unless that third party paid as much or more than the current funding between the sheriffs and the Adopt a Dog. So there's a clause that we talked about and Larry spoke of it.
What are you asking, like, what is our contribution?
Yeah, I mean, I.
Like valuing
yeah,
our
it's
time,
Much more than.
how much
50,000.
time the
Yeah.
police is putting
Yeah.
into. You know, assisting in animal control, what is the value of that time in terms of what is the true value of how much the city of Hood River is contributing to animal control outside of the actual line item? Right?
Yes,
Yeah.
because if it's just 50,000 to pay for the FTE and there is no other additional funding, then is the expectation that every year it's 50,000 plus additional staff time where. Again, as we look at the next couple of years, if we are the last hope for their funding, I think that's something that we should look at.
If I got the numbers correctly, though, I think she was saying, the one that presented, that their budget's 400,000. So that's a lot more money than we're talking about. There's no way the city or the county's gonna solve that. I don't think, not to be pessimistic.
No,
but,
yeah.
Yeah. I don't know anything about animal control nationwide but that seems like a bigger problem.
That's a good catch, Graham, and if you look at the letter that you received, that Jen sent to you, I think with your first packet in this meeting, back in April. I think the request from Hood River Adopt a Dog to the city and the county was $200,000 total. And I
Which
so
was
appreciate
requested and is not in the budget.
it is not.
We can't do it.
Yeah, right,
We're
well,
not able to do that because of the IGA,
right,
even if we wanted
we
to.
wanted to contract at this time. I mean, I'm not a lawyer, so I will want to be careful how I answer, but I don't think that we could based on the lease that they have.
Yeah, that's from the last discussions we had.
Yeah. I and my counterpart, Allison Williams, County Administrator, and Lorraine Lyons have met many times to talk about the situation of Hood River Adopt a Dog in the county budget. And the city animal control, not necessarily the animal control contract, but just how the city has or does not have a role in this piece. So we're all very, we've coordinated quite a bit with this, but. Yeah, I think when this topic comes to city council, I think in the past we have shared statistics of how many contacts and investigations and pieces that the animal control officer has done, and then when we can, we try to pull data from police information as well, just to give you an idea of like who, how many contacts are there, or actions to, or calls for dogs, and who responds to those. So we'll try our best to bring that data to you again.
I have one additional question for the chief. What happens if we don't have a shelter for animal control to bring animals to, or if we lose, or if the county loses animal control in general? What does that mean for your department?
Well, in 2008, 2009, I think some of us were here at that time when the city went through the financial crunch like the county is today. When we took, 25% of our employees from the police department, we made a decision at that time. Again, it's policy at that time. It's not financial. It's not what we can do. But policy, we made the decision that if a stray dog, we recommended, requested that the owner or the person that found that dog retain that dog, as we could put it on Facebook or other means of pushing it out, saying, hey, the dog is lost. So we just discontinued taking dogs because of staffing level in that era when we lost the boys.
And how'd that go?
During that time, we didn't have any hiccups. Was there people several days later, like, we can't find the owner, and we tried to deal with it at that time, so. There's other avenues, there's the resource out in the Dalles that, potentially would help us. A small fee or such, so. Or we recommended that actually the people that found the dog, that can you find another resource, so. So we were in that place at one time, so like I said, it was probably 2009, 2010. Discontinue that.
And is there any revenue associated with that? Like you find the dog owner? I'm a dog owner. My dog's. What?
Walk that.
Yeah.
Dogs cost money. We receive no revenue for that. For us personally, we receive no revenue. The county does receive, the licensing fee every year or 2 years that we pay that small fee, which is increasing this year. So they see revenue, but we see no revenue whatsoever.
There's no like jaywalking fee.
Yeah, no, not lost dog revenue fee that you have to pay.
It could be a great new resource.
I think that the issue is that like, it's when somebody hits a dog or somebody, like if you have an injured animal or something like that, and then what do you do with that? And that's where Adopt a Dog comes in. I mean, not to go down this rabbit hole, but like.
We actually, we don't utilize the Adopt a Dog when there's animals injured. We actually just take them right to a vet.
Oh, that's.
Well, she during the day, if she's available to do it, we do that the other hours that she's not available. We have some local vets that are more than willing to come out 24/7 to assist on those.
That is
so,
awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Are there any other final deliberations?
I would just like to thank staff for again providing us with a clear, well thought out, provided budget based on direction status quo as provided by council and direction that's been provided through the year. Gives us a clear roadmap of what is forecasted generally to happen should we continue on course with direction that's been laid out before us as directed over the last several years. You provide us some directions on what is available to us according to League of Oregon Cities It's up to council, this or in this body to choose as to the direction as to whether that policy is applicable and appropriate as to whether the League of Oregon Cities has the right direction and is agreeable to the Hood River. We have to evaluate that, see if it makes sense. And I'd be interested to explore that match. And learn some more about that. But that, to answer the question that was raised earlier, as to addressing the status quo needs and future needs and 5 years forecasted, not actual, but forecasted. That's a policy question that this body and city council needs to address. And whoever's around this table, I look forward to that question being answered. Because the earlier we answer that question, the less pain is realized by the community. So that's all I had to say about that.
Is it fair to say on that topic that the two things we talked about in meeting one on that in that area were addressing utility fees and looking at the gas tax surcharge? I mean, those are the two specific things that were mentioned as being, you know, maybe next to be discussed. Is that right, or is that? Yeah, I feel like
Something's funny.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, to Grant's point.
Rooney, you weren't here when I did my presentation.
There, just structurally, right, one of the challenges that the general fund exists in the general fund. Levy funds exist as separate restricted funds. So as it relates to, and they both have challenges, right? As it relates to the utility funds, as they are restricted funds, the city council does have the authority to establish utility rates, and that sort of is the primary source of revenue for those funds. As it relates to the road fund, we had talked about, there are, you know, outside of the gas tax, there's also a transportation utility fee, which is an option, and we explore. There are some ways to go with revenues. Chief Holstein had mentioned that other municipalities have a public service fee that is also passed through to, you know, as part of the utility bill. Again, we've discussed that internally, but those are sort of tools that are available. You know, there are things that we will look at with regards to what are the revenue sources that can be generated by council action. So for example, increasing parking fees, right? What are actions that would require you know, sort of a vote from the public, right? So, you know, whether we explore sort of the public level. Right? So those are sort of the options that exist. Again, no decisions, actions, sort of you know, recommendations have been made at the state, but those are the type of options that I go into the city.
But
Go ahead.
I do recall that in that first meeting, there is work that is being done and we'll have that information in November, right?
Yeah, we're looking at bringing certain recommendations, you know, primarily on revenue generating activities, I would say this fiscal year. But then again, sort of, you know, what are some of the structural recommendations that we would have?
So I think one of the cool things you like Will could do with your magic wands and your giant brains is like with like the other way to increase revenue. I know we can't like increase the taxes that are applied, the property taxes that are applied, but if we had more houses that were paying taxes, and that's one of the things that, again, it's a council thing of like, what are we doing and what as a city can we do to facilitate increasing our tax rolls by, we need housing anyway, right? So it's, I mean, am I completely naive in thinking that that's one way that we could do it that's not actually increasing costs to our constituents? Like, we're not asking our current taxpayers to pay more, we're just inviting new taxpayers to contribute, right? Like, that's an option, right?
It is an option.
Yay.
So easy. I thought that blew just a little and say there are costs of providing services to those neighborhoods.
Yeah, right, I get that, yeah.
Almost.
I'll ask one more question. So at the start of this fiscal year, we had a 51% reserve, right? Operating expense reserve. You know, looking at like long term, not this cycle, you have a sense on, you know, where are the thresholds? You know, you see the line slopes downward, you know, forever, which is not what's gonna happen, because we're better than that. Where do you think is, given the economic situation and just the way the world is right now, what do you think is a sustainable, what's your desired level of reserve that you think is reasonable to accomplish without chopping services and making this place, you know, not livable, but also, you know, fiscally responsible?
So the city has a resolution on its fiscal policies. This policy actually has a defined reserve. That reserve was sized at that time about 3 months of operating revenues. We use that same metric for the utility funds. We look to end the year with at least 3 months of operating reserve. So I would say just structurally, that's sort of where you'd like to be. Now, keep in mind, that means that you're adding to your reserve every year, right? Because your operating expenses presumably are increasing with inflation. So that's sort of the benchmark. I will say, like, you know, I think, I mean, the conversations that the county is having sort of put this into context as to sort of what this looks like in a more extreme, you know, sort of scenario. You know, I will remind everyone that it was the last fiscal year the city actually operated a balanced budget, right? So I think we're having these conversations now at this time, because, you know, sort of it's right, we're sort of at that sort of precipice, right? And so actions taken now, you know, are working towards a balanced budget, right? And not towards digging out of a sort of financial.
So 3 months is 25%. Right, if it's linear, if it's linear, so your projection, you know, that's like a 29 to 30, 2029, 2030, if the slope continues that, but it's gonna flatten out.
That's right.
It's way out in the future.
We'll be fine.
So, but that's the goal.
That is the goal.
No less than 25%.
All the hydroponics.
Time for a motion?
Does anybody like to promote, does a motion to approve? Proposing fiscal year 26-27 budget is submitted by the budget office. Anybody?
Not me.
So moved.
Thank you, Ben. Would anybody like to second that? And would all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. So approved. Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the taxes for fiscal year 26-27 at the rate of $2.81 and 12 more decimals behind that?
So
More parts of decimal per $1,000 assessed value for operating purposes in the general fund.
So moved.
Thank you, Doug.
I'll second.
Thank you, Gladys. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. All right, we have just approved the fiscal year 26-27 budget and tax levies. Think we can adjourn. What's that? All right.
Yeah.